born to gambling, and poker is its backbone. Tonight, the biggest game of the world is in town. This is the 34th Annual World Series of Poker.
Shuffle up and deal!
The greatest players in the game have gathered at Binion's Horseshoe Casino to battle it out for poker supremacy.
Be careful.
Thank you, Jesus!
It's day 3 of the World Series of Poker. Fremont Street is buzzing tonight as the countdown continues towards the crowning of the next world champion of poker. The big stacks of chips today were in front of a former car salesman, Amir Vahidi, a San Francisco cop and amateur player, Brian Watkins, and ex-champ Scotty Wynn. They, along with 100 others, gunning for the $2.5 million top prize. Hello, everybody. I'm Lon McCarron, along with sports columnist and tournament player Norman Chad, coming to you from Binion's Horseshoe Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. As we begin day 3 of this 5-day event, just over 100 players of our original field of 839, a new record, do remain. At our featured table today, 2 of the biggest names in the game, Johnny Chan and Howard Lederer. Should be a lot of fun to watch.
Oh yeah, Johnny Chan's always fun. He's the last player to win back-to-back World Series titles in 1987 and 88. Fearsome sight at the table, particularly when he's wearing his sunglasses and has a large stack of chips in front of him. He's called the perfect player. Howard Lederer is called the professor of poker. He looks smart, he plays smart, he can stare you down at a table enough to reveal your soul. I mean, he'll look at you long enough that he'll finally know more about you than you know about yourself when he's done.
A scary opponent indeed. One more man I have to mention before we get underway at our featured table. His name is Chris Moneymaker. Not sure how well he will do, but I'm sure he's hoping to live up to that moniker. There is our featured table for the day. And a good look at Chris Moneymaker, just a regular guy, an accountant for a restaurant chain here with the big boys. He's playing next to one of his heroes and a 2-time champion right there, Johnny Chan, the Orient Express.
Johnny has a 10 and a 5, nothing good, and he's gone.
Another one of the heavyweights at this featured table, as we mentioned, Howard Lederer. Very methodical type player, and he likes the ace-9 suited.
When he puts a chip on top of his cards, that means he's going to play the hand. He's protecting his hand from being killed. Doesn't want anybody else getting anywhere near it. And we'll see what he wants to do. He bets. It brings us over to Paul Darden now.
Paul Darden in the blue shirt with a suited queen ace, and he's going to push all in right from the get-go. About 36,000 chips right there, and raising an eyebrow from Howard Lederer. And you see that number next to Darden's name on the screen is the percentage he will have the best hand when all is said and done.
Howard always deliberate, figuring every angle he can, calculating what he needs.
Trying to look into the soul of Paul Darden right now.
I'm going to call the call.
Howard's going to call.
He calls, and he'll see he's behind in the hand. They both have an ace, and both have a flush draw.
All right, here comes the flop.
Oh, and strike up the band for Paul Darden. He already has the best hand. Now he has a straight draw. He has a flush draw. He even has a straight flush draw. It's party time for Paul Darden.
And there's a turn card, a 6 of diamonds, and that check mark indicates Darden does have the best hand. It's a flush, and he takes down Lederer.
And Lederer will be drawing dead on the river, and he's just going to have to suck it up and take that one.
Largest stack on the board. You know I can't be bluffing, but I know you could call, you could gamble still, too.
So Paul Darden takes the first hand on day 3 of this no-limit Texas Hold'em tournament. Here's how you play no-limit Texas Hold'em. Everyone is dealt 2 cards face down. Players then bet, and for the first time must decide whether they're in or they're out. Next comes the flop. 3 community cards placed face up in the middle of the table that everyone can use. Players bet again. The dealer then reveals the turn, another community card, also called 4th Street. After another round of betting, the final community card is dealt. This is called the River, or 5th Street. One last time, players bet. Then reveal their cards. The best 5-card hand wins. But this is no limit hold'em.
All in.
And at any time, a player can go all in and bet everything he has. So at the World Series, every hand could be the hand that makes you or breaks you. One lesson that cannot be taught is how well to read the other players, and that certainly is prime for this man right there, Howard Lederer, one of the renowned visionaries of the table.
Yes.
2 tens.
They didn't need much vision to see that he's got pocket 10s, and he'll play it.
Howard with a $3,800 bet.
4,800 is the bet.
Next in line, the action to Paul Darden, coming off a win just a moment ago over Howard Lederer.
Oh, hello to the Queens.
Hello there.
That's something good to look at.
Now, Darden coming off an all-in call, has a few more chips to play with now.
And that's a big raise. He goes to 40,000.
40,000.
Rest of the table deciding in or out. Johnny Chan is out. There is Refugio Quintero. He will not join the party.
Howard doesn't know if he wants him. This might be a one-man party, but Howard's considering now. He's got a very good hand, pair of 10s, and he's trying to figure out whether Paul Darden's better than him, and he sniffed it out. Great laydown.
I want to show you that I didn't rob you of puck.
Yeah. Give me that big old smile. You know, you just picked my pocket about 4 times already today.
Don't believe. Don't believe. Don't believe.
Paul Darden laying the foundation for a psychological war that he's starting with Howard Lederer. I'm sure there's more of that to come. There's Johnny Chan, one of the more famous poker players in the world. Been pretty quiet today, but certainly no fluke that he's still here playing on day number 3.
If I get hold of some chips early, I become real dangerous. The main thing is having chips and picking the right table. You get hold of those chips become a lot of ammunition. You're not going to war. If you get a lot of bullets, you're going to win the war.
I mean, one of the best players in the world, still a factor, still someone I don't want to see at my table.
Instinct is the most important thing in a poker game. You know, I just had that killer instinct.
And that instinct has certainly served him well over the years. A 2-time winner of this event, one of the most feared players. Johnny Chan with his lucky orange in his corner.
Jack 10 offsuit.
8,000. And now we'll see what happens to the rest of the table under the pressure of Johnny Chan. Quintero's cards, ace-7, not good enough to stay.
Johnny's aura sometimes drives people out.
We saw a lot of that in day 2. Didn't win a lot of big pots, but he was collecting the pots. Over to Paul Darden.
You know, what you got to ask yourself is, why do you want to call Johnny Chan heads up? It's like swapping spit with an alligator.
Chris Moneymaker. Still, nobody wants to play. Johnny Chan will take the pot, and perhaps the Orient Express can get back on track here at the 34th Annual World Series of Poker. Welcome back to Binion's Horseshoe Casino. The cards have already been dealt. The players now deciding, are they in or are they out? Paul Darden has bet 6,000 on this hand. He's been a big mover today. Over 150,000 in the stack now. Started with 36. Action now to Howard Lederer.
And Paul Darden had the ace-10 offsuit. Howard with a good-looking start in hand.
Throws him away again.
Wow, ace-queen suited. Sometimes you can wait a week for that hand.
That was respect there.
It better be. You know where I was at?
Man, I can't believe I just laid that now.
I got ace-jack, ace-queen off.
You wouldn't believe it if I told you.
There's always someone who gets the best of you at a table, and it looks like Howard Lederer wants to stay away from Paul Darden at the moment.
2 9s.
Now that, I'm not laying down. 2 9s.
As we continue, Darden and Lederer still glancing over at each other.
Well, it's friendly rivalry. It's more like water pistols than machine guns. They respect each other.
Another huge laydown. Okay, I had that beat too. Now I'm hot.
I'm glad you laid it down.
The rest of the table folded. Darden and the big blind wins the pot. And you know, Norm, that Darden has become the table captain right now, the more talkative of the players. He is the big mover. He has earned a lot of chips on this day. Learned to play the game in the back room of his dad's pool hall in New Haven, Connecticut. He still resides there. As he checks his hole cards, 4, 5 of clubs.
Well, they bet that in the back rooms.
He's going to play it. Action now to Brian Haverson, former CEO of Nutrisystems, sold the company. He's got ace-king.
And with an ace-king, it's not if you're going to play, but how you're going to play.
I'm going to raise.
He's going to play strongly.
15,000.
So now back to Paul Darden with his 4-5.
That's a loose call, though. Even though it's 4-5 of clubs, that's a pretty loose call from Paul Darden.
Here comes the flop now. All paint, Jack, Queen, King, and 2 clubs.
And what that does is give Haverson a pair of kings and a straight draw. And Paul Darden has picked up a club draw on this, but Haverson right now about a 2-to-1 favorite in the hand.
I'm all in.
Brian Haverson likes his hand. He is moving all in. He's got to push about 30,000 more into the center. And he tries to stare down Paul Darden.
How much is it?
Very close to 44.
Paul's asking how much, which surprises me. He doesn't have much of a hand. All he has is a draw right now. He's got 5 high, but he's thinking about it.
I don't have none.
And he says he doesn't have anything.
But a draw. I call.
Wow. That surprises me. And it stuns Brian Haverson.
You had to call me with that.
Because I made a draw. I thought you was trying to re-steal. I thought I stole.
Almost apologetic that he's calling that.
Yeah, a little guilt.
Oh, and there's a queen of clubs, and it gives Darden the flush.
And Brian Haverson all but out now. He's going to need a king or a queen on the river to make a full house and win this.
And here comes the river. 7 of hearts, and that's going to do it.
Oh, that's just a brutal way to end your day.
Paul Darden perhaps shouldn't have even been in this hand, ends up beating and eliminating Brian Haverson.
If I'm him, I'm headed straight to the bar.
So Paul Darden's good luck continues here at the featured table, and he's rolling through everybody else. Just about 100 players remaining in the tournament here at Binion's. Among the chip leaders coming into today are the 2 big Phils. Right there is Phil Ivey, who actually taught Paul Darden how to play No Limit Hold'em, and Phil Hellmuth, the '89 champion, and they're going head-to-head right now. Ivey will bet $9,000 on his cards.
I really like Phil Ivey's chances to win this championship. He mixes up his play. He's very aggressive. He's willing to put all his chips in at any time from any angle.
Well, he was just raised by Phil Hellmuth, 26,000. And Ivey says a little too rich for my blood.
Looks like I might be backing the wrong Phil.
I don't think you can go wrong when you bet on anybody named Phil in this room today. And there you get a good look at our chip leader of the day, Amir Vahidi, the only player to come in with over 300,000 chips. He is known as a player not afraid to put his money on the line.
And I have to put my money out there, my money's out there, everybody knows that. In some point you have to tell these people, listen, who's the boss. So you want to mess with me, it's going to cost you. So you have to be willing to die in order to live in this no limit tournament. That's basically it.
Well, everybody dies except one man, and Amir is making a good run at being that man right now, going heads up on the outside table against last year's runner-up, Julian Gardner.
I'm all in.
Oh, and Gardner goes all in, and immediately Amir is going to call him.
And he tells him he has a straight already.
So we're waiting for 5th Street to see if there's any help for Julian Gardner, and it is not. Amir Vahidi with another big pot 1 to add to his huge stack. Back to our featured table, and with the exit of Brian Haverson, we have added another player to the table. He is Kenna James, an actor from Anaheim, a former actor from Anaheim, but he's going to have to be an actor if he's going to be a successful poker player.
Best training there is.
Howard Lederer with a pair of sixes. And he makes it $6,000 to the rest of the table. Paul Darden, who has been his arch nemesis for most of the day, folds as well. And the action to the new man at the table, Kenna James.
Yeah, through those sunglasses, he'll see pocket queens.
Raise.
What a very polite raise from the new man at the table. Don't want to ruffle any feathers.
He raises about 15,000.
That could ruffle some feathers, I guess, in its own way. We saw Johnny Chan fold, and now the decision-making goes to Howard Lederer.
And Howard Lederer already into his mid-season stare. A stare that makes many of his opponents uncomfortable. He will keep looking at you while he decides what he wants to do. And a lot of the other players don't even like to make eye contact with him.
He has those black laser-like eyes, too. What is Kenna James doing?
You know, I tried that in my first marriage, and it didn't work.
Kenna James is going to try anything to get out of sight lines of Howard Lederer.
It must be like a sweat box in there. He's looking for some ventilation.
Howard can stare you down for an awful long time.
Howard, you know, Howard has gotten into Zen Buddhism over the last year, and he's read Zen and the Art of Archery about staying in the moment. With Howard, that moment can last quite a while.
Much to the dismay of Kenna James.
But the point of all this is Howard trying to make the correct read.
Okay, it's safe. You can come out now.
And he folds in the process. He did make the right read, though.
Yeah, and Howard might have saved Kenna's life right there.
Well, not surprising, he covered up against Howard Lederer. Howard is the master of knowing the odds and reading the opponent.
I think one of the things that I do better than some other analytical players who may be more strictly analytical than me is that I understand that the game isn't all about the numbers. I feel it's very important to know the numbers, but it still comes down to your gut instincts. It still comes down to just taking a read, looking at a guy's face, looking at the way he just furrowed his brow as he put the chips in the pot. There's something that tells you he has it or he doesn't have it. And you can't put numbers on that. So the numbers only take you so far. I think it's very important to be grounded in the numbers. But to go to the next level, it's all about instinct.
Surviving the next level. That's what the key is here at the World Series of Poker. Back in a moment. Welcome back to Binion's Horseshoe Casino in downtown Las Vegas. Amongst the many pros here at the World Series of Poker are hundreds of amateurs, or what the pros call dead money. By day 3, though, is dead money still considered dead money? Right there, amateur Brian Watkins, the cop from San Francisco, was second in total chips at the start of the day, but things have not been going his way.
Guys, show your one card.
Got one. He's got one.
The good or the bad? You pick one. You pick one. Which one?
Next up is Tomer Benvenitzi, an expedition tour guide from right here in Vegas. Tomer has made a steady run over the first 3 days and continues to stockpile chips in his bid for the $2.5 million.
Tomer's sort of an amateur and he's sort of a ringer. He's been playing in Las Vegas a number of years, so he knows what he's doing.
Another newcomer in the room who's built up a large stack is whiz kid Dutch Boyd. He went to college at age 12, graduated from law school at 18, and right now he's in trouble. He's got 3 4s against 3 jacks going to the river. His opponent is all in.
Wow.
The river comes a 4, and Dutch Boyd takes the hand.
Jesus. I mean, it was a bad call. I mean, it really was a bad call. I knew he had the jacks, but I called anyway. And I got there. That's poker. I'm sorry. I feel really bad.
The whiz kid may be smart, but sometimes it pays to be lucky.
Some great action in the outer field. And speaking of new faces, at our featured table, World Series of Poker rookie Chris Moneymaker started the day at just about 100,000. Let's find out more about this man called Moneymaker.
Chris Moneymaker from Knoxville, Tennessee. I first started playing poker about 3.5 years ago. Really learned the ropes on my own, playing with friends. Movie Rounders came out, and we watched it and started getting interested in Hold'em and started playing it, and just a lot of play, a lot of lost money. I walked into the room when I first got here and I saw Phil Hellmuth and Johnny Chan and all them, and I was a little bit taken aback and in awe. Johnny Chan came in and sat down on my right, and Phil Ivey came in and sat on my left, and I knew who both the guys were. So immediately, I'm nervous, and I get outplayed. I lose $60,000 off the top. Just I played scared, and I thought they had pocket aces every time they played. So they ran over me, and I looked pretty bad. And I went to bed that night, and I made a decision. I said, I'm not going to be afraid anymore. If I get beat, I get beat. I'm going to play my game.
Back at the main table, Chris Moneymaker again playing next to one of his idols, Johnny Chan. It'll be interesting to see if actually he employs his own advice and becomes a little more bold against these guys.
Yeah, it's one thing to say it, and it's another thing to actually do it. Very difficult to make that transition.
Kenneth James throws in his cards, now looking at the whole cards of Johnny Chan with a king jack.
Raise.
And he makes it 4,000.
The action now moves up the table to Howard Lederer as he checks his whole cards, and he's looking at ace queen. Not bad.
Yeah, he puts the chip on top of his 2 cards. He's going to play the hand, obviously. It's a question of whether he wants to call or raise Johnny Chan with the ace queen offsuited.
Well, the Lederer A1 computer has figured the odds, and he wants to bet, and he's going to raise it $12,000. As we move around, Darden folds. Next in line, Chris Moneymaker.
Chris Moneymaker, interestingly, had never played in a live tournament before coming to the World Series. He paid $40 to participate in an online tournament, and he won his $10,000 seat into the World Series by winning that tournament online.
And here he is in Las Vegas, staring down 2 of the biggest names in the game, Howard Lederer and Johnny Chan.
Yeah, we just heard him say that he's not going to back down, and in fact, we're seeing him stare them down and trying to sort of out-muscle or even out-intimidate them.
He says he's learned a lot from both of these players over the years, and he's using their techniques on them right now.
It's up to you, right?
I didn't even know I had a hand. I'm sorry.
Or is he? I think he just forgot to play, Norm.
You're staring at him. I'm thinking, what? Are you looking into his soul or what?
Sorry, I thought y'all were in the hand. I didn't even look down.
He just flat out forgot, Norm.
Yeah, we have to thank Johnny Chan. We might have been here all night.
You were like staring at him like it was like you were trying to figure something out in a second. What the hell?
Oh, well, Howard Lederer wins the hand. Chris Moneymaker learns a lesson.
Off his eyes. You two just playing.
Looking at
Welcome back to Binion's Horseshoe Casino in Las Vegas, and our featured table where the topic of discussion is still Chris Moneymaker forgetting his turn.
I apologize, guys. I didn't know I had a hand. I thought I fought him out a long time ago. Sorry, hell, I thought y'all were in the hand.
Well, we heard Chris mention earlier he was a big fan of the poker movie Rounders, which featured Matt Damon and none other than that man, Johnny Chan.
Wow. 88 World Series, huh? Johnny Chan flops the nut straight and has the discipline to wait him out. He knows Seidel's gonna bluff at it.
I enjoyed shooting the movie with Matt Damon and Norton.
I'm at the Taj and it's late and I see Johnny Chan walk in. And, the whole place stops. Everybody puts an eye on him.
I mean, they had my face blow up like 300-pound Johnny Chan. I look like kind of like a, real tough and mean person, which I'm not. I wasn't even supposed to be in the movie, but my daughter, Jennifer, asked me, hey, I want to meet Matt Damon. And I say, well, let me see if I can arrange that. I told the producer, I gotta be in the movie. They say, okay.
He owns him.
Well, Johnny's won this event twice. I'm not sure they're going to hand out any Oscars for him for the movie.
Hey, I thought Johnny Chan was a heck of a method actor in rounders.
He is a star here in Las Vegas and now considering his cards.
Paul Darden considering right now just a 9. Ooh, an ace peeks out there. Ace-9 for Paul Darden.
He has been a very powerful player today at this table, and a bet of $3,500. Kenneth James started the day about 57,000.
Pair of eights.
Yeah, likes what he sees. A couple of eights. And on to Hollywood Johnny.
He hasn't seen much today. A pair of 5s looks pretty good. He's going to play it also.
Action up to Howard Lederer. Started the day about 205, and well, sometimes we win, sometimes we don't on the hole cards. We're not quite sure what Howard is playing, but he seems to like it.
Well, Howard's sure of what he's playing, and we don't know what he has, but he's got to have something if he's calling 3 players in front of him, all 3 strong players.
We're going to see a flop with 4 players in. It's 2, 3, 4, all clubs.
Interesting flop, and Howard is going to be first to act now because he's in the big blind. Kenneth James has a flush draw. Johnny Chan also has a straight flush draw with the 5 of clubs, and that didn't really help Paul Darden.
And now you at home can act the poker player against Howard Lederer. Figure out what you may do against 2 hole cards you don't know. A very strong bet from Howard Lederer, raises 14,000.
14,000. You know, he's got 3 strong players behind him. Now, he's either, it's hard to figure what he has. He might have pocket kings. He might have an ace of clubs. He might have been playing like an ace 10 or ace jack. He might have the flush already. But when he's got 3 players behind him to put out that bet, he's got to have something. And
Darden.
We've already lost Darden, and now we lose Kenneth James.
Right now up to Johnny Chan. He knows the power that Howard Lederer brings to any poker table. And he's not going to go up against that power. The first big pot for Howard Lederer today. I wonder what his cards were. As we continue on, in day 3, tension is high and nerves are frayed as the players hope to hang on for another day and possibly finish in the money. Everyone here expects this guy, Howard Lederer, to live on until tomorrow. He's not, though, the only member of his family playing in the tournament. Younger sister Annie Duke also in the room. She's considered amongst the top female players in the world. They do share a close bond. Just don't expect blood to be thicker than chips when they share the same poker table.
That's me when I'm 15. That's my brother when he's 18.
I certainly grew up in a very competitive environment.
The way that our family interacted with each other was through games, so and mainly card games.
We would have some big battles there. Cards would go flying occasionally. And it was often Annie flinging them.
If I lost, the cards were going across the room.
She really didn't like to lose. Those were the seeds of my poker career, planted right there. And she got started playing poker because I was already playing and starting to do well, and she really caught the bug.
I just called my brother up and I said, well, you know, maybe you could teach me poker. And I did well. He gave me good lessons.
We played against each other quite a bit.
The first year I ever played the World Series, I knocked him out on the first day. I treat him like I treat anybody else at the table.
I'm certainly rooting for her and she's rooting for me, but if we're at the same table, we're trying to beat each other.
There's Annie at one of the outer tables in her familiar perched position. Hanging tough today, has not really been able to build up a big stack. She's right now head-to-head with pro Tony D, who went to the final table last year.
Yeah, Annie apparently was taught by her brother to stare the other players down a little and read them a lot.
Tony D going all in on this hand. Now Annie's got to weigh the odds.
I'm going to throw the best hand away for you just this once. But don't be doing that again, because next time I'm going to call you with this hand, just so you know.
Annie had the ace-king suited and gave it away.
And we saw Howard give away an ace-queen suited. Sibling type of theory.
Well, he taught her everything he knows. Howard checking across the room on little sis as we get back to our action at the featured table. The tension at this table and all around the room beginning to get thicker and thicker as the evening wears on. Chris Moneymaker now taking a look. 2 whole cards, a couple of aces. Not a bad way to start this hand.
He raises to 4,500. That's a moderate raise with the pocket aces.
Nobody else wants any action except perhaps this man who has not decided yet, Howard Lederer.
Howard with an ace-king.
And he's going to raise it 10,000 to Chris Moneymaker.
And Chris just a smooth call there, so he does not come back over the top of Howard Lederer.
Or perhaps he did not want to sit there under the glare of Howard Lederer's eyes.
This does save time.
Now the flop. It is 6-3-8.
No help to either player, and this makes Moneymaker the much stronger position right now. Howard doesn't know this, but he would need king-king after this to win the hand. He was in the big blind, so he's first to act here with the ace-king.
And it does not take that much time here to put in a $25,000 bet.
This is a great spot for Chris Moneymaker.
I'm all in.
And he goes all in. Boy, he's played this more like a seasoned pro than an online amateur. By not re-raising Howard before the flop, he induced Howard to bet after the flop and got some more money out of him he wouldn't have otherwise. Howard might have just folded earlier.
And Howard does indeed fold, and Moneymaker backs Lederer down.
I can breathe again.
Well, the education of rookie Chris Moneymaker continues. Welcome back to Las Vegas, Nevada, and the 34th Annual World Series of Poker. Lon McCarron along with Norman Chad continuing action at our featured table. And we've got 3 players in front of Paul Darden folding, so the action to the young man. And a 7 and a 6.
Well, not the prettiest looking cards in the world, but Paul mixes it up sometimes. He's gonna bet 3,500 with nothing.
Over to Chris Moneymaker. If anybody has momentum right now, it is this rookie. And he's going to call that bet. And we are going to see a flop.
So Chris Moneymaker with a pocket 3s. And Paul with 6-7 off suited, not much.
Flop comes out ace, king, and 4.
No help to either right here.
To Darden.
You know, Paul Darden told us that he prefers playing against pros than amateurs, because you know what a pro's going to do, and an amateur, you're just not really sure. So it's easier to read a pro. They both check to take a free look at the turn, which helps neither one of them.
Again up to Darden, and Darden is going to go bold here with a bet.
He's betting with nothing. He's decided he's going to, pull the trigger and try to take it down right here.
Chris Moneymaker going to raise him.
He's going to try to take it down himself. Like they say, sometimes in Hold'em, the target shoots back. And Paul doesn't like it.
Not at all. So he folds, and Chris Moneymaker takes the pot.
There are 2 straight hands where Moneymaker looking more and more like a pro.
And Paul Darden left to mutter to himself, wondering when he can regain his momentum. We take a look around the field tables. 4 former world champions remain in this competition. Among them is Phil Hellmuth, of course, the youngest ever to win it. He did it back in 1989. The elder statesman of the group, Dan Harrington, who won it in 1995. And Scotty Wynn did it a few years later in 1998. These 3 all have very different styles, but they all realize that one of the keys to winning is the ability to read the opponent.
Every great poker player out there, they all have different style.
This is a partial information game. The more information you acquire that your opponents don't have, that means you have an edge.
I seem to look right into people's souls sometimes. I don't know what it is.
Some is very aggressive, some is very loose, some is very tight.
It's the way they move their arms. It's the way they move their face. It's the way they look at me. It's their betting pattern.
I don't want to make it sound like some kind of Zen-like feeling, but in a sense, maybe it's like that.
It all adds up to a story. And I'm very good at reading people's story.
Me, you know, I just take one hand at the time because winning is everything, you know.
Scotty Wynn at the outer tables says winning is everything. Oh, but clearly not the only thing. He folds, not liking the read he got on his opponent. Looks like he was bluffed. He misread, and he's unhappy.
I know something like that.
Well, you had one overcard.
Phil Hellmuth, meanwhile, looking at a king and a queen on the board. He's trying to get a read on Sammy Farha to his right. Sammy calls the bet.
Top two.
And then Phil shows him the king and queen.
Wow, you paid that? King, queen of diamond? Feel like we ain't cheated.
Sammy knows he's beat. Phil takes the pot. As for Harrington, well, he's been reading people for a long time. And oftentimes he likes what he reads. Goes with a $9,000 raise at the table. Nobody bites. The rest of the table folds, and the ex-champion is that much richer. The fourth of our ex-champions still alive on day 3 is none other than Johnny Chan, who's been playing here at our featured table. He needs something to happen quickly. Chris Moneymaker has built a nice stack for himself today, but Johnny Chan looking for any help, and he is getting a little moral support from his family. That's his son hanging on the rail behind him.
Well, eventually he's going to need chip support. He just hasn't been able to build any chips all day, and he's getting a little frustrated.
Another frustrated player right there, Paul Darden, who had a lot of fireworks early on, built that stack, but been a bit quiet recently. Most of the table momentum going to this man, Chris Moneymaker, now with an ace-3 suited.
And he's getting the chips ready to do something.
He's going to raise, and Johnny, I don't know, can he not believe it, or just wondering
Johnny's thinking, hey, the kid had only seen me on the big screen 3-4 years ago. Now he's betting in front of me. Well, what the heck is this all about?
Well, Johnny's going to re-raise him with an ace-jack.
And Johnny with the stronger hand than Chris Moneymaker, as we see the other players folding around the table. Chan would be about a 2-to-1 favorite over Moneymaker right now in the hand.
And now the young kid asking the vet, how much you got in your stack?
It's got to burn Johnny Chan a little inside. Just his body language tells you, what is it with this kid?
Calls him. So we're going to see a flop. Moneymaker and Chan head to head again. And it goes queen to jack.
And that gives Johnny Chan a pair of jacks with his ace kicker. Chris Moneymaker has nothing right now and will check. Johnny Chan far, far ahead at this point.
And does the correct thing here with a bet. $10,500 is the bet from the 2-time World Series of Poker champion and the rookie.
Good lay down.
But not going to do it.
He's been schooled by somebody or something.
So Johnny Chan gets a very important pot. It's not a big one, but this guy says he needs only 1 chip to be a factor in any tournament.
Maybe if you're Chris Moneymaker, Lon, you're wondering if you've got what it takes to beat these big boys.
Well, the story will continue to unfold when we come back to Vegas. Welcome back to Binion's Horseshoe Casino. We are winding down at the end of today's session. 3 days and the fatigue beginning to set in, and it's only going to get worse as we get deeper into this tournament. Johnny Chan just hopes he'll have the opportunity. He picked up a small pot a moment ago, but still looking at the small stack at the table just in front of him.
I'll tell you, that orange should get federal disaster relief funds at this point.
Absolutely. I don't know if that's going to survive the day, even if Johnny does. Cards are in the air, and Johnny Chan now checking the hole cards. Ace and 3 suited.
And he's going to bet it.
Interesting.
It's interesting. He's in a fairly early position, and he might be pressing just a little now. The ace-3, not that strong. A lot of people behind him. And now Howard's picked up a pair of 8s.
The Sharks starting to surround Johnny Chan right now, looking for any opportunity maybe to get a champion out of a tournament.
And there is a raise by Howard Lederer with his pocket eights.
8,000 is the raise. Darden, no action for him. And Johnny Chan's going to call the raise. All right, we're ready for the flop. 2 7s and a 3.
Which means Johnny Chan now has 2 pair, but of course Howard Lederer with the better 2 pair with the 8s.
It's to Lederer now for the action.
And he bets.
He wastes very little time.
I go on him.
Johnny Chan going to put all the chips in.
29,400, he says.
What is it, 29.4?
He could be pressing a bit more here. He doesn't have that good of a hand.
At this point, Johnny Chan looking for any chance to double up. And Howard Lederer has the stack he would love to do it against.
Well, Howard's got to decide right now. He'd love to eliminate Johnny Chan. He's one of the more feared players around. But he doesn't want to make Johnny Chan healthy right now. And he knows if he calls here, even if he's a slight favorite, he could get outflopped after this and lose $30,000 more. So he's trying to decide, do I do and do I don't? And he says, I don't.
So Johnny Chan wins the pot. It's not a big pot, but Howard Lederer was not going to give him the satisfaction of taking any more chips at that moment. But Johnny Chan will take what he can right now. Checking the clock, this could be the final hand of the session. Players are going to want to make some fireworks before they hit the exits.
For Johnny Chan, there's been very little fireworks. He's had to go all in several times. In fact, yesterday, Johnny Chan went all in 6 straight times at the same table and took some money down, including from Chris Moneymaker bullying him on one of the all-ins.
Well, Johnny Chan was able to do that. Maybe some of that aura has dwindled a bit today. We saw him go all in just a moment ago. Successful there. Darden, again, no action. Over to Chris Moneymaker. And he's going to raise 6,000 to Johnny Chan.
He will raise with the ace-8 suited.
Again, Johnny Chan having to make something happen. Maybe a little desperation in this former champion's eyes. Who knows? He's got a king-5 suited.
And this is a good flop for Moneymaker, because he has the top pair of aces plus the ace flush draw. Johnny has a lower flush draw, so that's irrelevant, and he also has a straight draw with a 2. Much better cards for Chris Moneymaker right here.
And it looks like Chris Moneymaker is fully aware of that, and he's going to bet to Johnny Chan. And Johnny has to make something happen. He is going to raise back to Moneymaker.
Yeah, Chris Moneymaker, about a 2-to-1 favorite. Excuse me, he would actually be much more than the 2-to-1 favorite right now with the nut flush draw and the pair of aces against Johnny. Johnny's raise makes him take his glasses off.
55, 60,000.
Oh, Moneymaker asking Chan what he's got right there is more of an irritant. It really comes from a position of power in this player. Moneymaker, who's puffed himself up to be on the same level as the great Johnny Chan.
So Johnny Chan just on a draw here. He's thinking maybe because Chris was on the button, he was overplaying his hand, didn't have much. But as we know, Chris has the pair of aces and the ace flush draw.
Well, the rest of the players have left the table for the break, and right now we have the perfect player against the amateur of amateur, mano a mano, in this hollowed-out poker ring.
I'm all in.
So there you have it. Chris Moneymaker laying down the challenge to Johnny Chan.
And he thinks he has the best hand, and he does. And to me, this is going to be tough for Johnny to call. When you go all in, you want to have the best hand. You just don't want to be on a draw. All Johnny has right now is a draw. I'd be surprised if he goes any further.
All right, here you go.
Johnny's going to put it on the line.
I need a heart, dealer.
Johnny's best chance is a deuce for a straight.
Oh, yeah, man, in bad shape. All right, put a deuce up there.
No deuce.
All right, here we go. Moment of truth. The turn card, a 9 of hearts, and that's going to do it. Chris Moneymaker with the ace-high flush takes down Johnny Chan.
Wow, this is like Buster Douglas knocking out Mike Tyson. The 2-time champion goes down in a heartbeat. Sometimes even the perfect player has imperfections. He put all his chips at risk on a draw. All he had was a draw, and now he's going to have to go home.
Chris Moneymaker learned his lesson well yesterday against Johnny Chan and used it today to defeat his idol.
He outplayed me yesterday, and I thought he was going to outplay me today. I just got a lucky hand and caught him that time. But he's a phenomenal player, and he's definitely tough to beat. I came in nervous as could be, and I've loosened up. So I hope I can finish this thing off and be a real moneymaker. I don't know.
By the way,
okay, players, I'm going to hand you a bag. Please put your chips in the bag. Don't steal the
It was an eventful day here at Binion's Casino. Emotions ran high, and some players cleaned up big. Dutch Boyd, along with ex-champs Scotty Wynn and Phil Hellmuth, added to their stats. But not everyone was so lucky. Phil Ivey and Brian Watkins lost major ground, and a legend was sent packing.
How I feel right now? I want to go to sleep. That's how I feel.
The only thing that's for sure is the slogan is true. It's anybody's game. Along with Norman Chad, I'm Lon McCarron. Join us again next time from the World Series of Poker.
That was exciting, man.